On my 30th birthday, my parents grabbed the $1,500,000 I'd saved for a decade. Dad chuckled. "Good job. You just paid for your sister's future." Mom added, "You would have squandered it anyway." I smiled back because what they stole was actually a trap I planted. Imagine this. Your own parents on your 30th birthday, draining your life savings, $1.5 million I'd spent a decade building. My dad laughed, and told me, "Thanks. Your money just secured your sister's future." My mom chimed in, "You would have wasted it anyway." Can you believe that? But here's the kicker, what they thought they stole. That wasn't my money. That was their trap. And I was the one who set it. My name's Tammy. I'm a 30-year-old financial analyst living in Boston, and for as long as I can remember, our family home felt divided. I was the responsible one, the hardworking older daughter. Hannah, my sister, was the golden child who could do no wrong. This wasn't subtle, not hidden. It was the very air we breathed. Hannah's tiny achievements, framed trophies, my state mathematics competition win in 8th grade. My parents missed it because Hannah had a minor cold. It stung. It always did. My dad, a banker, brought home a comfortable salary, but he also brought his controlling financial tendencies into our house. Every penny was tracked, every expense justified, unless it was for Hannah. Mom, she was a professional enabler. She'd spend her days excusing Hannah's increasingly expensive whims. By 12, I developed this almost intuitive understanding of money. While other kids blew their allowance on candy, I was opening a savings account, babysitting, charging fair rates. I documented every cent in a blue ledger hidden under my mattress. Money gives you choices, I'd tell myself, a mantra against Hannah's taunts about being boring. The irony was almost poetic when Hannah first dropped out of college, claiming the business program was too restrictive. My parents funded her 6-month finding herself trip to Europe. She dropped out a second time from an art program that cost them $30,000, and their solution? A new car to cheer her up. Meanwhile, I worked 20-hour weeks, stacked academic scholarships, and put myself through Boston University. This pattern, it just kept going through our 20s. Hannah would start these expensive projects, ditch them, and receive comfort, more money. I'd work harder, save more, and get lectures about enjoying life while you're young. The cognitive dissonance, it was staggering. "Tammy, not everyone is as naturally disciplined as you," my mother would say when I asked why I had to pay my own car insurance, but they covered Hannah's. "Your sister needs more support to find her way." This wasn't just sibling rivalry. It was a systematic devaluation of my efforts, a grotesque inflation of Hannah's worth. When I graduated summa cum laude and landed a position at a respected financial firm, my parents hosted a small dinner. When Hannah finished a 3-week photography workshop, they threw a gallery party, inviting everyone to buy her overpriced, out-of-focus landscapes. The final, absolute, searing straw came in my senior year of college. I discovered my parents had used the small college fund my grandparents left me, my inheritance, to pay off Hannah's credit card debt. When I confronted them, my dad got defensive. "We'll pay you back, of course," he said, so dismissively. But Hannah was in real trouble. Those collection agencies were calling day and night. "You've always been able to take care of yourself." That night, something inside me snapped. I made a decision that would shape the next decade of my life. I would become so financially independent, so successful, that I would never need to rely on them for anything. My wealth wouldn't just be security, it would be armor against their manipulation. Little did I know, this decision would lead to both the greatest betrayal and the most satisfying victory of my life. After graduation, I hit the ground running. Financial independence wasn't a goal, it was my mission. I landed at Wentworth Financial, a prestigious firm known for its aggressive strategies. I wasn't just working, I was obsessed. I was at the office by 6:30 a.m., volunteering for the accounts nobody wanted because they were too complex. By 24, I was managing portfolios. By 26, senior analyst, the youngest in company history. My income tripled, but my lifestyle? Unchanged. While colleagues bought luxury cars, I still drove my used college Toyota, packed my lunch and tracked every expense. My investment strategy was equally disciplined. 40% into retirement, 30% stocks, 20% real estate, 10% angel investments. I was building an empire, brick by painful brick. Hannah, meanwhile, went through jobs like seasonal fashion trends. A receptionist gig quit because the fluorescent lights were depressing. A handmade jewelry shop abandoned after 2 months. Each failure was met with parental emotional and financial support. "Your sister is a free spirit," my mother would coo during our monthly calls. "Not everyone is cut out for the corporate grind like you, honey." The inequality was blinding. Hannah lived in a subsidized downtown apartment, drove a finance car, and received regular cash infusions. I, the disciplined one, was still expected to contribute to family gifts. When I turned 20, my father had insisted I open a joint account with them for family security. His banking background made it sound so reasonable. "It's just good financial planning," he'd said. "If anything happens to you, we need to manage your affairs without legal complications." Young and trusting, I agreed, but I kept my real money in separate accounts. I tracked every cent in that joint account, maintaining precise spreadsheets. My father didn't know that. As my wealth grew, so did his professional curiosity. Casual conversations would always veer towards my investments, my savings. At first, I dismissed it. Later, I recognized it for what it was: reconnaissance. The first blaring red flag appeared during a holiday gathering. I stepped out for fresh air, but their voices drifted through the kitchen window. "She must have close to $1 million by now," my father said quietly. "Maybe more with those tech investments." My stomach dropped. "Do you think she would help with Hannah's situation?" my mother replied. "After all, family should support each other." "We'll figure something out," he responded, a tone that sent a chill down my spine. She's always been practical about money. I stood frozen. They weren't discussing asking for my help. Their words reeked of entitlement, as if my money was a family resource, not the result of a decade of sacrifice. That night, suspicion turned into a cold, hard certainty. The warning signs accumulated like storm clouds before a hurricane. Hannah announced her third venture, an upscale pet boutique. My parents funded the entire $70,000 startup. 3 weeks after her grand opening, my mother casually mentioned, "Your father and I are a little stretched thin right now. We may need to borrow a small amount. $15,000 for a month or 2. I agreed, documenting the loan. 6 months later, after multiple gentle reminders, I wrote it off. They never mentioned repayment. My father's interest in my statements intensified. He asked specific questions about portfolio performance, tax strategies, banking arrangements. Just professional curiosity, he'd wave away. But his questions became surgical, focusing on account structures, withdrawal limits, access protocols. He knew exactly what information he needed. My mother's dismissive attitude morphed into backhanded compliments. "You must be doing well to afford that watch," she remarked at dinner, eyeing my modest timepiece. "I bet your accounts are just growing and growing." The situation escalated when Hannah announced her engagement to a struggling musician she'd been dating for 3 months. The wedding plans, extravagant, Santorini designer dress, 200 guests. $150,000, Hannah mentioned casually. When I asked how, my father cleared his throat, glanced meaningfully at me and said, "Family resources." Then my suspicions went into overdrive. Returning from a business trip, I noticed subtle differences in my apartment. Nothing was obviously missing, but items had been shifted. The locked drawer where I kept financial documents, undisturbed. But the stack of papers inside? rearranged. 2 weeks later, my father accidentally took my laptop after a family dinner. Thought it was my work computer, he claimed. My sleek Ultrabook looked nothing like his bulky work laptop. I checked my browser history, searches for access procedures to my investment platforms during the exact hours it was in his possession. The final, sickening confirmation arrived after I installed a small security system. The motion-activated camera in my home office captured them, my mother and father, entering my apartment using the emergency key I'd given them years ago. They systematically searched my files, photographed documents, and tried to access my computer. That same week, my financial advisor, Martin, confirmed my fears. Joint accounts are always risky, he warned, especially with family. The emotional complications make the financial entanglements more dangerous. What are the vulnerabilities exactly? I asked, though I was starting to understand. Any joint account holder has full legal access to the funds, he explained. They can withdraw everything without your permission or even notification. That evening, a colleague from the bank where my joint account was held called me. Your father has been inquiring about withdrawal limits and procedures for large transfers, she said quietly. I thought you should know. It seemed unusual. The final piece fell into place during a family visit. I'd arrived early, let myself in. Their voices drifted from the kitchen, oblivious. Her 30th birthday would be the perfect time, my father was saying. The account balance should be at its highest point with her annual bonus deposited. My mother's voice. But will she suspect anything? She's always been so careful. And then my father, with a confidence that made my blood run cold. She trusts us. Besides, once it's done, what can she really do? Family accounts are legally accessible by all parties. Standing in that hallway, an odd sense of calm descended. The betrayal hurt, a deep, sickening pain. But the confirmation of my suspicions brought a brutal clarity. They were planning to take my money I'd earned through years of sacrifice, to fund Hannah's irresponsible life. I had 3 months until my 30th birthday. It was time to set a trap that would expose their true intentions and protect the fortune I had built. With that clarity, I began to plan. This wouldn't be an emotional reaction. It would be a strategic operation, executed with the same precision I applied to my investment portfolios. My first step, expert help. I met with a forensic accountant specializing in fraud, a family financial disputes attorney, and a cybersecurity expert. I laid out my suspicions, presented my evidence. What you're describing is unfortunately common, the forensic accountant Diana told me. Family financial exploitation follows patterns. Your parents' behavior checks multiple boxes. The plan was multi-layered. First, secure my actual wealth. Over 2 months, I methodically transferred my real assets, approximately $5.8 million, into new, secure accounts under complex legal structures. An irrevocable trust, 3 LLCs in different states, new financial institutions with zero connection to my parents. The key is compartmentalization and legal barriers, Robert, my attorney, explained. Enough layers that even if they discovered one, they couldn't penetrate the entire system. With my real wealth safe, I created the decoy. I maintained the joint family account, but transformed it into an elaborate honeypot. I transferred $1.5 million into it, an amount tempting enough, but only about 25% of my total wealth. The source of these funds was crucial for believability. I liquidated visible investments my father knew about, deposited my year-end bonus publicly, and made several large transfers that would appear on statements they might access. Marcus, my cybersecurity expert, crafted a digital trail leading directly to this account. We need to make the target obvious without appearing to be a setup, he said. We created fake financial planning documents on my laptop, suggesting the joint account held the bulk of my savings. Email notifications were set to alert me to any access attempts. The best traps don't look like traps, Marcus reminded me. They look like opportunities. Meanwhile, I installed additional hidden cameras in my apartment, focused on where financial documents were stored. I recorded all phone conversations with my parents, carefully steering them towards revealing their intentions. Every instance of them asking about my finances, photographing documents, accessing my property, documented. To make the bait even more irresistible, I started dropping casual mentions of a major investment plan after my 30th birthday. I've been thinking about making a significant change to my portfolio structure after my birthday, I said during a family dinner 3 months out. A sort of financial milestone. My father's eyes lit up. What kind of changes? Nothing concrete yet, I replied casually, but it would involve consolidating accounts for more efficient management, probably moving everything into 1 or 2 primary holdings, temporarily. This achieved exactly what I wanted. My father's calls became more frequent, always veering to my birthday plans and financial arrangements. My mother suddenly wanted weekly lunch dates, where she'd probe for details about my accounts. I created fake financial statements showing increasing deposits into the joint account, leaving them accidentally visible during family visits. I made phone calls within earshot, discussing the consolidation of my assets for a major post-birthday investment. 2 months before my birthday, I tested the trap. I left my laptop open with the joint account statement visible while stepping away during a family dinner at my apartment. The security camera captured my father approaching the computer, taking photos of the screen with his phone, then returning to his seat before I came back. 1 month out, I hired a private investigator. He reported they had visited 3 different banks, inquiring about large transfers, and consulted with a financial advisor specializing in sudden wealth management. With 2 weeks remaining, I verified all legal protections. Robert confirmed enough evidence for criminal charges if needed. Diana had documented all my true assets, clearly separated from the decoy. Are you prepared for the personal fallout? Robert asked. Legal protection is one thing, but this will permanently alter your family relationships. I considered his question. My family relationships have been built on exploitation for years, I replied. I'm not destroying something healthy. I'm exposing something toxic. I'm ready. The final step was psychological preparation. I worked with a therapist specializing in family trauma. I needed to be clear-headed. The night before my 30th birthday, I reviewed every element. Decoy account funded, visible. Real wealth secured. Recording devices in place. My team on standby. Everything was ready. All that remained was to watch my own birthday party become the scene of the most significant betrayal and counterattack of my life. My 30th birthday fell on a Saturday in early autumn. The day dawned crisp and bright. I dressed carefully, applying makeup to appear slightly more vulnerable than usual. Today's performance required me to look unsuspecting, emotionally open. My parents had insisted on hosting an unusual offer. Now I understood. We want to make this birthday special, my mother had said. 30 is a big milestone. I arrived at 1 p.m. to balloons and a happy 30th birthday banner. The effort felt hollow, but I performed surprise and gratitude convincingly. This looks wonderful, I exclaimed. You shouldn't have gone to so much trouble. Nothing is too much for our successful daughter, my father replied, his arm around my shoulders, feeling heavy and foreign. Hannah arrived fashionably late with her fiancé, Todd, making a grand entrance. She air-kissed my cheeks. Happy birthday, sis, she said, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. 30 looks good on you. Throughout the afternoon, I maintained a careful balance of apparent enjoyment and strategic awareness. I pretended to drink wine, taking minimal sips. I needed complete clarity. Around 4 p.m., after cake, I enacted the next phase. I checked my phone, feigned excitement. Oh, my investment alert just pinged. I announced, loud enough for my father. That fund I was telling you about finally hit its target price. His attention sharpened. Sounds like good news. Potentially life-changing, I replied with calculated enthusiasm. I need to check the details, maybe make some moves before Monday. Do you mind if I use the office for a few minutes? Of course not, sweetheart, my mother interjected. Take all the time you need. We'll entertain the guests. In my father's office, I opened my banking app, navigated to the decoy account, and deliberately saved the password. Then I left the phone unlocked on the desk and walked away, detouring to the bathroom. I waited exactly 3 minutes, watching the hidden camera feed on my smartwatch. The footage showed exactly what I'd anticipated. Less than 90 seconds after I left, my father entered the office, picked up my phone, and began rapidly navigating the banking app. His fingers moved with practiced precision as he initiated a transfer from the joint account to an unfamiliar number. The betrayal was unfolding, precisely as predicted. I flushed the toilet to signal my return and watched on my smartwatch as my father hastily placed the phone back on the desk and exited. When I re-entered, the phone lay in the same spot, but the banking app was closed. Almost immediately, my smartwatch vibrated with an alert. The notification confirmed a transfer request of $1.5 million from the decoy account. The trap had been sprung. Returning to the party, I noticed subtle changes. My father seemed more relaxed, checking his phone with poorly concealed satisfaction. My mother was suddenly attentive, refilling my wine glass, asking about my comfort. Hannah exchanged knowing glances with them, a smirk playing at her lips. "A toast," my father announced, raising his glass. "To Tammy, not just on her 30th birthday, but to her contributions to our family's security and future. Family takes care of family." The irony of his words would have been comical if not for the profound betrayal. I raised my glass and smiled, playing my part. "To family," I echoed, meeting his eyes steadily, "and to getting exactly what we deserve." He faltered slightly but recovered quickly. The other guests, oblivious, continued celebrating. At 6:30 p.m., my phone chimed. A genuine bank notification. The transfer was complete. $1.5 million had moved from the joint account to my parents' private account, the same account that would soon fund Hannah's extravagant wedding and bail out her failing business. I made a show of checking the message, allowing a flash of confusion to cross my face before masking it. I needed them to believe, for now, that they had succeeded. "Everything okay?" my mother asked with false concern. "Just work," I replied smoothly. "Nothing that can't wait until tomorrow. But I should probably head out soon. It's been a long day." "So early," my father protested weakly. "We haven't even given you your presents." "I'm just a little tired," I insisted, beginning my goodbyes. 30 hits differently than 29 did. As I gathered my things, Hannah approached, a mixture of triumph and manufactured sympathy on her face. "Big plans for tomorrow?" she asked casually. "Just some financial housekeeping," I replied. "Nothing exciting." "Well, don't work too hard," she said, patting my arm condescendingly. "Some things are more important than money." The audacity, given what had just transpired, was breathtaking. I simply smiled, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "We'll see about that, won't we?" Driving home, I contacted my team. Diana confirmed the transfer had been forensically documented. Robert verified all legal countermeasures were in place. Marcus reported that the digital evidence, timestamps, account access logs, all secured. Everything was proceeding according to plan. My parents believed they had successfully stolen my life savings. They were probably celebrating, congratulating themselves, planning how to spend my money. Tomorrow would bring the reckoning they never saw coming. Tonight, I allowed myself to process the profound, painful reality that my own family had betrayed me. The knowledge hurt despite my preparations, but it also liberated me from illusions I had maintained for too long. My 30th birthday had indeed marked a significant transition, though not the one my parents had planned. They thought they were witnessing my financial downfall. Instead, they had orchestrated their own exposure. sealing the fate of our relationship forever. I slept surprisingly well that night. Perhaps certainty, even painful certainty, is more restful than suspicion. I woke early, dressed with care in a crisp charcoal business suit, and prepared myself mentally. This would be the most difficult conversation of my life, but also the most necessary. At precisely 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning, I parked in front of my parents' house. Their cars were there, along with Hannah's distinctive red convertible. Perfect. All the players were present. Through the windows, I could see movement in the dining room. As I approached the door, I heard the unmistakable pop of a champagne cork, followed by laughter. They were celebrating their theft with morning mimosas. The timing couldn't have been more perfect for maximum dramatic impact. Instead of knocking, I used my key and entered quietly. Following the sounds, I walked to the dining room entrance and stood watching for a moment before they noticed me. The scene was exactly as I had imagined. My parents and Hannah, seated around the table with champagne flutes, a spreadsheet printout between them. My father noticed me first, his face transforming from jovial satisfaction to pure shock in an instant. His champagne flute tilted dangerously, spilling onto the white tablecloth. "Tammy!" my mother exclaimed hastily, trying to cover the financial documents with a napkin. "We didn't expect you this morning." "Clearly," I replied, stepping into the room. My voice was calm, betraying none of the emotional turmoil beneath. "Don't stop the celebration on my account. It seems quite festive." Hannah immediately stood up. "I just remembered I have an appointment," she mumbled, gathering her purse. "Sit down, Hannah," I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. "This concerns you two." Something in my manner must have conveyed the futility of resistance, because she slowly sank back into her chair. "What's this about Tammy?" my father asked, attempting to regain his authoritative demeanor. "We were just having a family brunch." With champagne and financial statements, I raised an eyebrow. Interesting brunch menu. I placed my briefcase on the table and opened it, deliberately removing a folder containing bank statements. "I received an interesting notification yesterday during my birthday party," I continued. "A notification about a transfer of $1.5 million from my account. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" My father's expression hardened into defiance. "That was a joint account, Tammy, legally accessible to all parties." The admission was so immediate, so devoid of even an attempt at denial, that I almost admired his audacity. "So, you admit to taking my money without discussion or permission?" I clarified. "We didn't take anything that wasn't legally available to us," my mother interjected, her voice shrill with defensive indignation. "Family resources should support family needs." "And what family needs required stealing $1.5 million from your daughter?" I asked, my voice remaining steady. "Your sister's wedding, for one," my father replied, gaining confidence. "Hannah deserves a proper start, and her business needs capital. You have more than enough with your fancy job and investments." I nodded thoughtfully, then removed a small recorder from my pocket and placed it on the table. I pressed play, and their voices filled the room. My father's voice emerged, crystal clear. Asterisk, her 30th birthday would be the perfect time. The account balance should be at its highest point with her annual bonus deposited. Asterisk, my mother's recorded voice followed. Asterisk, but will she suspect anything? She's always been so careful with her money. Asterisk, and then my father again. Asterisk, she trusts us. Besides, once it's done, what can she really do? Family accounts are legally accessible by all parties. Asterisk, the color drained from both their faces as their conspiracy played out in their own voices. I stopped the recording and placed the device back in my pocket. "That's just one of several recordings documenting your planned theft," I informed them calmly. "I also have video of you searching my apartment, accessing my computer without permission, and photographing my financial documents." "Dad," I have footage of you using my phone yesterday to initiate the transfer. Hannah had been silent through this, but now she erupted. You were spying on them. That's sick, Tammy. They're your parents. And they were stealing from me, I countered. Which is the more disturbing behavior? It's not stealing when it's family. Hannah insisted, the familiar refrain of entitlement evident in her tone. You owe us for everything they've done for you. I owe you. I couldn't help the incredulous laugh that escaped me. I put myself through college. I built my career without help. I've been financially independent since graduation, while you've been draining our parents' resources for years with failed businesses and extravagant spending. That's enough, my father thundered, standing up. We made a legal financial decision regarding a joint account. There's nothing more to discuss. There's quite a bit more to discuss, I corrected him, maintaining my composure. Starting with the fact that what you transferred yesterday wasn't actually my life savings. A moment of confusion passed across his face. What are you talking about? We saw the statements. You saw what I wanted you to see, I explained. The statements showing regular deposits, the account balance growing steadily over years. All carefully crafted to create the impression that you were accessing the majority of my wealth. You're bluffing, my mother said, but uncertainty had crept into her voice. In response, I removed another document from my briefcase and placed it before them. It was a statement from one of my actual accounts, showing a balance of just over $2 million. This is one of several accounts holding my actual assets, I explained. The $1.5 million you took was essentially a decoy placed in that joint account specifically because I had discovered your plans and wanted to document your intentions. That's impossible, my father sputtered. We've been monitoring your finances for months. You've been monitoring what I allowed you to see, I corrected. The joint account, some visible investments, the financial documents I left accessible. My actual portfolio is significantly larger and completely secure from your access. The sickening realization of what had occurred slowly dawned on their faces. They hadn't cleverly stolen my life savings. They had fallen into an elaborate trap, meticulously designed to expose their true characters. So what now? My father asked finally, his voice hollow. You came here to gloat? I came here to give you a choice, I replied, removing a final document from my briefcase. This is a formal. Demand for the return of the $1.5 million you transferred, plus 3% interest within 72 hours. If the funds are returned within that time frame, I won't pursue criminal charges for financial exploitation or civil action for the documented theft. Criminal charges, my mother whispered, horror spreading across her face. You would do that to your own parents. You were willing to steal my life savings, I reminded her. Which is worse? Hannah had remained uncharacteristically quiet, but now she erupted. You can't do this. The wedding venue is already booked. The deposits are paid. Your wedding is not my responsibility, I stated firmly. Neither is your business, your lifestyle, or any other expense you've been planning with my stolen money. My father picked up the document, reading it with growing resignation. And if we don't comply, then my attorney files charges Monday morning along with a civil suit, I explained. The recordings, videos, and financial documentation will become evidence. Given what I've collected, conviction would be virtually certain. The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. My parents exchanged glances filled with a mixture of anger, fear, and the dawning recognition that they had severely miscalculated. You've changed, my mother said finally, as if this explained or justified their actions. I've seen clearly, I corrected her. There's a difference. I closed my briefcase and prepared to leave. At the dining room doorway, I turned back for a final observation. You know what's ironic? If you had simply asked me for help with Hannah's wedding or business, I probably would have contributed something reasonable. But you chose to take everything. And in doing so, you've lost far more than money. As I walked to my car, I felt a strange combination of grief and liberation. The family I had known was gone, revealed to be an illusion built on exploitation rather than love. But in its place was clarity, and with clarity came the freedom to build something better for my future. The 72 hours following the confrontation were surprisingly quiet. I half expected frantic calls, emotional manipulation, but my phone remained largely silent. The only communication came from my father, a terse email confirming the money would be returned by the deadline, with a requested interest. True to his word, exactly 71 hours after our confrontation, I received notification. $1,545,000 had been transferred into my designated account. The principal plus 3%, calculated to the penny. Even in defeat, my father's banking precision remained intact. With the financial matter resolved, I immediately severed all remaining ties. I closed the joint account, removed my parents as emergency contacts, and changed the locks on my apartment. My lawyer sent formal communications establishing clear boundaries, prohibiting them from attempting to access any of my financial information or personal property. For several weeks, silence reigned. Then, the attempts at reconciliation began, though reconciliation might be too generous a term. Hannah called first. Her approach was as transparent as glass. "I know things got intense," she began, her voice carefully modulated to sound conciliatory, "but we're still family. Maybe we can talk things through over coffee." "What specifically would you like to discuss, Hannah?" I asked, knowing the answer. A brief hesitation. "Well, about the wedding, actually. The venue is requiring full payment earlier than expected, and with what happened?" I ended the call politely but firmly. 2 days later, my mother tried a different angle, emphasizing family loyalty, attempting to reframe their actions as misguided concern. "We only wanted to make sure your money was being properly managed," she insisted. "Your father has decades of experience in banking, after all. Managing my money by transferring it to your account without my knowledge." I questioned. "That explanation doesn't align with the recorded evidence. My father never called directly. Instead, he sent a formal letter that acknowledged irregularities in their approach, while still maintaining they had acted with the family's best interests at heart. The letter concluded with a request to move forward in a productive manner, which I correctly interpreted as another attempt to access my resources. I responded to each attempt with consistent, firm boundaries. I wasn't angry anymore, just resolved. The clarity I had gained was too valuable to sacrifice for the illusion of family harmony that had never truly existed. During this period of readjustment, I focused on rebuilding other aspects of my life. I moved from my modest apartment to a secure luxury condominium in downtown Boston, with proper security systems and a doorman who screened all visitors. The space became my sanctuary, decorated exactly to my preferences without consideration for anyone else's opinions. I found unexpected support in a therapy group for survivors of family financial exploitation. The stories shared there confirmed that my experience, while painful, was far from unique. Many successful people discovered their achievements, made them targets for family members who felt entitled to the fruits of their labor. "The hardest part isn't the money," shared one woman whose siblings had systematically drained her small business accounts. "It's accepting that the people who should love you most see you as nothing more than a resource to be exploited." Those words resonated deeply. The theft attempt had never really been about money. It was about value and respect, or the profound lack thereof. My family had never seen me as a person deserving of the same consideration they gave Hannah. I was the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who could be taken from without consequence. Professionally, I channeled my experience into a new specialization within my firm, developing financial protection strategies for high-earning individuals, particularly women. I created educational programs on financial independence and security, speaking at conferences, writing articles on recognizing and preventing exploitation. 6 months after the confrontation, I established the Financial Independence Foundation, providing resources, education, and legal support for young women establishing careers in male-dominated fields. The foundation quickly gained recognition for its practical approach to financial empowerment and protection. Through this work, I built meaningful connections with people who valued my knowledge and respected my boundaries. These relationships, based on mutual respect rather than obligation or exploitation, formed the foundation of a chosen family that proved far more supportive than my biological one had ever been. Among these new connections was Daniel, a corporate ethics attorney I met at a financial security conference. Unlike previous relationships where I had maintained careful distance, I found myself able to trust Daniel's genuine interest in me as a person, not as a financial resource. Our relationship developed slowly, built on shared values and transparent communication about expectations, including financial ones. "I've never met someone so clear about their boundaries," he told me over dinner one evening. "It's refreshing to know exactly where I stand." Clarity came at a high price, I admitted, but I wouldn't trade it, even to have my family back as they were. On my 31st birthday, instead of a family gathering, I hosted a celebration with my chosen family of close friends, colleagues, and mentoring relationships. The contrast between this genuine celebration and the previous year's deceptive event couldn't have been more stark. As I reflect now, I recognize the profound lessons it taught me about money, relationships, and self-worth. Money doesn't just provide material security, it reveals character. When significant sums are involved, people show their true priorities and values. My parents and sister had always viewed my success as a family resource rather than my personal achievement. The money simply brought that perspective into clear focus. I learned that financial independence for women isn't just about earning and saving. It's about protecting what you've built from those who feel entitled to it. This protection requires both practical strategies and emotional boundaries, especially with family members who may leverage emotional connections for financial gain. Most importantly, I discovered that real family supports your growth rather than exploiting it. True love celebrates your success instead of seeing it as an opportunity for personal gain. The people who deserve a place in your life are those who value you for who you are, not what you can provide them. The trap I set for my parents ultimately freed me from the trap I had been living in for decades. A cycle of achievement followed by exploitation, justified as family obligation. In exposing their betrayal, I liberated myself from patterns that would have continued indefinitely, draining not just my financial resources, but my emotional well-being. Today, my life is built on authentic relationships and clear boundaries. My wealth continues to grow, protected by structures that ensure it remains secure. The family I've chosen supports my success without expectation of personal benefit. I found peace in creating distance from toxic relationships, while building meaningful connections with those who demonstrate integrity. So, I have to ask, have you ever discovered someone close to you had ulterior motives involving your success or resources? How did you handle that betrayal? And what boundaries did you establish afterward? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.